Oh, yeah, it is painting day. All right, first graders. So I left you off last week. Oh, second graders. Ooh. I left you off last week with this. Here's our picture, already traced with oil pastel, checked for any holes, and we are ready to start painting. So I have my trusty paintbrush, watercolor set, and a clean water cup. Okay. I also have a mat underneath my pictures. So that's something that you are going to want to have underneath your picture is a nice big mat. If you have newspapers, you can use a newspaper. When I paint with my kids at home, we just use a little rubber placemat, something that if we make a spill, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, so a couple of things to note. My paint set goes like this: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, brown, and black. Black is a very scary color for me to use in these pictures or with watercolor in general, because a little bit of black paint will go a very, very, very long way. Okay, so when I do use it, I try and use that last. And in general, when I paint things, I try and start with the lightest color that I have so that our water will get, as it gets dirtier and dirtier and dirtier, at least we're going from lighter to darker colors. So if we go to use, a purple, a brown, or a black, at least when we get there, our water, if we haven't changed it out yet, it won't really affect those colors that much. If I was using green and red, and there's green and red paint in my water cup, and then I went to use yellow for my lightning bolts and my moon, it wouldn't work out that well. Okay. So we are going to hop around this picture a bunch. There's a lot of open space here. Okay. So what I want to do is really take care of all of our little small areas first. And then we'll be able to be a little bit more free to paint our bigger areas. A note on holding our paintbrushes. I know that we've gone over this in the past, either with me or with a different art teacher. I always hold my paintbrush like it's a pencil. Now, the paintbrushes that we have here at Kings Road and at Torrey J, they have this metal band on it. I like to choke up on our paintbrush and hold it just like that. I have the most control. You'll have the most control when you're holding your paintbrush like that, like it's a pencil and on that metal part. Holding it back here would be kind of tricky. Holding it like this, we don't really have that much control. So we want to kind of hold it as we hold our pencils and how we kind of write and draw. Okay, so I'm going to get my paintbrush wet. Okay, I have to get my paint palettes wet. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to everything before we get going. I'm not going to be using all these colors today. And remember, if I am going too fast, hit the old pause button. But I do like to add some water to my paints just to kind of soften them up so that when we do go to use them, they're ready to go. Okay, these are typically pretty dry or kind of gummy, kind of sticky. A lot of times with like the blue paint in these Prang, I believe this is a Prang, Prang watercolor sets, the blues and purples get very, very sticky. I don't know why that is, but sometimes it just is what it is. Okay, so let's think. The lightest color that I have in my paint set is yellow. So I'm going to take my yellow paints and I'm going to go through. I just did water. Remember, it's water, paint, paper every single time. Okay, so water, paint. I'm going to paint my moon yellow. Now, once you start to see that it starts to lighten up a little bit, I'm going to go back, add more water, more paint. I don't need to get a lot out. I could always add more on later. It's kind of hard to remove paint. Okay, you could always add more. Water, paint, just a little bit. I'm not pushing my paintbrush down in there. I'm not trying to scoop out paint. It's just a little quick little dab. Okay, and you can see there's just a little bit of yellow paint on my paintbrush. Okay, time to go to the lightning bolts. And if you have too much on your paintbrush, it's going to show. Okay, it's going to kind of just sit on the surface of your paper. It's not going to go into the paper right away. It's just going to kind of hang out. Okay. If you have too little water and paint on your paintbrush, you're going to see some brush strokes showing up. And before we get to the big areas like our sky and our grass, I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Okay. So I said that we're going to paint the bottoms of our windows one color, water paint paper. Okay, so I have our 4 windows painted now. I wanted to paint the inside of the door, this little crack. Just like that. Be careful. Okay, leave that door handle that we tried to get. That's going to pop out. Okay. So far, I think that's it for our yellow. Okay. So I'm going to make our house red. So the red we got wet before. I'm going to kind of paint around the outside areas first. Okay. And then I'll add, like you just saw me, I kind of go through. And look, I'm still using the same, that whole area was done by just a little bit of water, a little bit of paint, a lot of water. Watercolor paint is meant to be nice and light and bright. Sometimes you could take some paint from one side, pull it to the other side. Okay, got a little bit of yellow out. So then we got this part. Make this red also, starting as far away as possible, starting to work back towards myself. If you've been noticing, I'm trying to keep my hands away from the paper as much as possible. Just had a mistake. Not too worried about it. It's okay. Have a couple of drips. Okay. Now we're going to start to shift towards these darker colors. Okay. We're going to shift now to the upper portion of our paint palette. We're going to start by painting our sky. Okay. Now our sky, I want it to be purple, only because purple, and we've said this last year, we've said it a little bit this year, purple is a really good color that illustrators in books and painters use instead of black for a night sky. Black can be a very commanding and very overwhelming color, and sometimes we can lose some of these things that we drew. So I like to stick to purple. Okay, purple can be as dark as you want it to be, or it can be nice and light. And since we're using these watercolor paint sets, okay, we want it to be nice and light. Now I'm going to zoom in. There we go. Okay, so before I mentioned you might not have enough paint or water in your paintbrush. Do we see these little lines, these little brushstroke lines? Okay, that indicates to me that I am running out of water and paint on my paintbrush. So I'm going to go back through. And I'm going to just kind of go back, add some more on. Okay, you can see it happening again. So I'm just going to go back in, more paint. I'm not even pushing hard on my paintbrush. I'm being very, very gentle with my paintbrush. Remember how I told you last week that that grass and the fence are going to push the paint off? There it is. There it is. It's really neat how that happens. I'm going to try and even out this area. Being very gentle with my paintbrush, going around everything. And just like when we traced, I'm trying to be as neat as possible. So I haven't touched any of the sky on the right side because I'm right-handed. Okay, I'm just trying to move around the left side of my painting. Careful around our clouds. We want those to stay nice and white. We might change them to like a gray cloud later on. Remember, as per usual, if I'm going too fast, hit the pause. It's really coming along nicely. Always got to remember that pattern. Water, paint, paper. Water, paint, paper. Now, something that you're going to notice, and it just happened to me, I hope that it doesn't happen to you. I added a little too much paint onto my paintbrush. The more we use one color, and we're using that purple a lot, the softer that paint palette, that little oval of paint will get. It'll be very, very, very easy to pull out too much paint. So all of a sudden it became very, very dark. Okay, we don't really want that to happen, and if it does, just spread it out. See it happen again. So I'm just going to spread this out. I'm going to show you a very quick trick on how we can spread that out even further so it matches the rest of the purple that we have throughout our sky. Now I do want to have some changes in those colors. I do want to have some changes in those colors, in those purples. We don't want to just be one color. It can be a multitude of different colors. So that's how I just fixed that dark spot. I kept spreading it out. I'm getting it on my mat. It's hard to see because my mat is black. Same as last week, but I am just spreading it out. Another way to spread it out is to take some paint or some water and then just add it to that darker area, and you could pull it all over. Okay, so here's a super dark spot. I'm gonna add some water to my paintbrush. All of a sudden, I add more water, I dilute it. That means I make it thinner. And there you go. All of a sudden, it's back to where we wanted it to be. Super dark purple again, because it's getting that soft. So I kind of want to work, personally, I want to work a little bit quicker in spreading all that out. Sorry that it looks like I'm missing spots over here, but in fact, this is all painted. It's just kind of shiny because I have that light directly above me. Cool. Wow, look at that. This picture is really coming alive. So I'm going to really give my paintbrush a bath. I'm really going to let it get cleaned off because I'm going to do our green grass. And then I'm going to move, and I'm going to attempt, well, first I'm going to paint my door brown. Then I'm going to attempt to get a very light black or a gray for our stones and our tombstones and possibly our roof. It's going to be kind of difficult. If you want to try it with me, go for it. Okay, so green for our grass. See how this oil pastel trick really is working? I love this trick. It's allowing us to have that purple sky and that green grass, and it's not mixing together. It's going to allowed us to have a red house and with the yellow windows Yellow windows, as my grandpa used to say. Good little trick to have. Now I'm working down our paper. Come back up over here. Oh man, this looks great. Ooh, look at this. This is awesome. This is awesome. Okay, now we're on to our, first I'm going to do the door, which we said is going to be brown. I added a lot of water and a little bit of brown paint. Okay, and I'm trying to hold the paintbrush back a little bit more than I said you should, only so that you can see what I'm doing, okay? Now comes the scary part for me. I'm going to use this black paint, okay, on one tombstone. And what I'm going to do, see how that became gray? It looks very dark here, okay? It really isn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be pulling paint from there, from that first one. See how I pulled that paint out? Okay, let's zoom in a little bit. Because now all of a sudden, these went from being black, super black, to a lighter gray. So all I'm doing is taking a paintbrush and rolling it in there to pull most of the paint out, and then I can spread it. Rolling that paintbrush, I'm not even adding any more water to my paintbrush at this point. I'm just trying to lighten these areas up. So I'm rolling it, my paintbrush, in that paint, and I'm transferring it. I'm sharing the wealth. There you go. Okay, now this would look, let's see, what happens if I do this? Nope, whole lot of nothing. Okay, so now all of a sudden these grays that look very, very dark, it will lighten up. Okay. Not because I added more water, but because I had one little spot that I added it to, and then I was taking some away. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my brown, and I'm gonna paint my roof brown. One little dot, one little bit of brown paint is gonna go a long ways here. Just like that technique I just showed you with the tombstone. Taking my paintbrush, I'm rolling it across my one roof, and I'm going to use that same brown. I'm not adding any more. You could add more if you need to, just to pull across. Okay, I'm going to make the top parts of these windows brown, like they're shades. Last little bit. We do want this hole in the roof to be black. So we are going to add, and we're going to be very, very careful as we paint. Boom. When you're done, let your paintbrush take a bath. Let's see if I can zoom out. I'm not going to be able to get the whole thing, but now all of a sudden we have our spooky haunted house. I can't wait to see how yours turns out. This looks great. Yours is going to look awesome. Send it over when you're done. Have fun. Bye-bye.